So they didn't start to burn and pillage until they decided, you know, well, all right, we have to teach them a lesson. The Ku Klux decided we have to teach them a lesson. So actually, we as children didn't hear any noise or any shots the night of the 31st of May. But on June 1st, they began to systematically destroy neighborhoods. And they had airplanes dropping things down on people's houses, and they had made up their minds to clear the entire area of black people. So most of the people fled. When they saw houses burning in the streets behind them, they left. But my mother was determined not to flee, and she poured water on everything she could put water on, trying to make the house safe so it wouldn't burn. But the first thing they did when the militia came was to take all the men, and they took my 8-year-old brother too, to a place, bullpen or some place where they were holding all the black men. And we didn't know, because we lived on one side of town and they lived on the other, we didn't know they weren't doing the same thing. The militia, you have to obey the militia, so we thought they were locking up the non-blacks too. But it so happened that it didn't occur that way. What they did was to disarm and lock up all black men. And then they said to the mob, there's nothing out there now but women and children, so you can do whatever you want to do. And that was when the real terrible things started to happen, because they would invade your house. And my mother had a very strong will. She was a Tuskegee graduate, and she had been trained to teach. But she decided, well, we have to eat no matter what's happening out there in the world. So she had 3 triangular pots that you could put 3 pots on one gas eye on the stove. So she was cooking, and she made biscuits, and they were in the oven. Well, when the crowd came in to pillage and burn, they were infuriated, because here's this woman cooking cream of wheats and making applesauce and cooking biscuits, instead of being terrified and running from us. So I think they thought they had to teach us a special lesson. So they took the food out. Of course, the children are cowering under this big oak table where my mother had put us. And then we saw them take our food out and throw it in the dirt. And then they came back and got the biscuits and took them out and stomped them in the dirt. And then they came back in to destroy whatever they didn't want to take with them.
What's up, real ones? Welcome to Let's View It. Have I ever told you guys I can't stand Brandon Tatum? I'm just joking. That's how I started the last video. But I had so much fun on the last video, I decided to make a part 2. I don't care if people get mad at me when I go at and expose Brandon Tatum. He's a grifter. I don't care. My job is to tell the truth. It's not about getting views and subs. Although I do love subs. I love them. I can't lie. I really love subs. So give them up. And while you're giving me your much appreciated, lovely subs, I'm going to explain what this video is going to be about in case you missed part 1. Brandon Tatum basically is a grifter, and he's spreading his nonsense about how black people just make bad choices and they're all victims of victimhood, I guess. And what I'm doing is I'm basically going through his nonsense and exposing him and telling you guys the truth. Brandon Tatum helps perpetuate racism in America. That's what he does. As much as he says he doesn't want racism here, as much as he claims racism is not here, he helps us stay here. And before I hit play on this video, I want to leave you guys with a question to think about. What is the difference between a reason and an excuse? What is the difference? And the reason why I'm asking that is because when it comes to this topic of whether or not the racist history of America contributes and helped the downfall of the black community, and is a pretty big reason why the black community is behind the white community in so many different ways. People who think black people are just being victims or playing victimhood say those are excuses. Why are they not reasons? Just something to think about. So you already know. Let's view it. Now, like I said in part 1, this topic has been politicized. Look at the title of Brandon Tatum's video. BLM activist freaks out after Officer Tatum exposes the left's hidden agenda. Really?
What's your name?
Isabella.
Isabel?
Yes,
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thanks for being here. My parents are gonna flip. I've basically been watching you since I was like 13, so I'm really glad you came here. Cool. My question is, so you know how in Thomas Sowell he wrote this book called Discriminations and Disparities,
Yeah, I actually
and he talks about personal motivations and how some people have grown up raised in whatever victimhood they have experienced, whether that's been single motherhood or fatherlessness, homelessness, whatever, and they're grown basically up in that environment, and then they don't have the personal motivations, or they don't think or see themselves as being lawyers or doctors or president or anything like that. They just see NBA players, rappers, things like that. And we see that the left has put so much money and time and effort into reparations and critical race theory and stuff like that. How are they able to manipulate the situation when the outcomes are very much outweighing and having negative consequences? How are they so able to freely manipulate that situation?
Yeah, that's a good question. What they're doing is they're weaponizing our struggle to sell us a lie. Instead of saying, we know that America have unduly put black people through a certain struggle, let us empower you to empower yourself, not sit here and let us hand you something. And that's what they've been doing over the last several years. They don't fix the schools. They just let you in a university with affirmative action. It's like, no, fix the schools so the kids are qualified and they're competitive. You don't go to the end of the line to try to fix something. You go to the root of it. Young black people, like when I was growing up.
See, this is exactly why I don't do politics. Brandon Tatum sitting there telling this young girl, see, they don't fix the schools. They don't fix the problems. They don't do this. They don't do that. Who is they? Is he talking about the liberals? The left? Well, guess what, Brandon Tatum? The right and the Republicans have been the president before, have been in office, have had control, right? They didn't do it either. Nobody does it. You know why? Because it's not supposed to be done. All of this is done on purpose. The left and the right are on the same side. Just like your left and right hand. They both work for you, right? The reason why there's a left and a right is to give us perception that there's two different sides. They're both on the same team. I promise you. That's why the left is like, hey, black people were held down by a white racist system. And the right's like, no, they're not. They're just making a bunch of excuses. And as long as you keep having these two different sides just going back and forth, saying nonsense, guess what? Nothing gets fixed. But here's Brandon Tatum being an echo chamber, saying it's all the left's fault and they won't fix the schools, but neither did the right. The schools remain terrible, especially when it comes to the black community.
I thought about being a doctor. I didn't know a doctor. I knew a whole bunch of dudes playing college football. I knew a whole bunch of dudes rapping. I wanted to be like, Tupac was my favorite rapper.
What? Is he being serious right now? Is he being serious?
Tupac is Brandon Tatum's favorite rapper. Tupac. For you guys, if you don't know, maybe you're too young or maybe you hate rap. I don't know. But Tupac's mom was in the Black Panthers. The Black Panthers. Tupac's mom. And if you don't know, the Black Panthers don't like cops. And Brandon Tatum loves cops. Tupac rapped about the black struggle in the black community because of a white-controlled world. He literally has a song called White Man's World, with lines like being born black in a white man's world. Brandon Tatum doesn't think this is a white man's world. Brandon Tatum thinks we're all on even playing field and black people are stupid. So Brandon Tatum's trying to tell us that a rapper that believes everything opposite of what he believes is his favorite rapper? How could that be? All he does is talk about stuff you don't believe in. I'm trying to tell you guys, Brandon Tatum is fake.
Cousins, when we were young, we used to try to battle rap each other to beat well, y'all probably too young to know Bone Thugs and Harmony and all them. But we used to battle rap to be Bone Thugs and Harmony. We just didn't have the vision. And it's unfortunate that that just gets perpetuated and celebrated time and time again. I understand why it happens, because it's easier to be successful playing sports than it is in academics to a certain degree, right?
Yeah.
You come from a crappy school. I went to Dunbar High School, which I love my school, but it's in the hood, man, and we didn't have resources like that. Some people did very well academically. I didn't. I went to university and got a degree for free by playing sports. But what
Doesn't Brandon Tatum talk about how black people always want to rap and play sports? And why don't they do something else? Invest in something else. Then right here, he literally says, I made it to college off of sports. While also saying it's easier to make it in college off of sports than academically, which shouldn't be true. That's only true in the black community. And guess what? Getting a full ride sports scholarship to a college is damn near impossible. Damn near impossible. But Brandon Tatum literally just admitted that it's easier for a black person to do it that way than academically. Do you think it's easier for a white person to go to college off of sports or off of academics? That's an easy answer. Getting a full ride sports scholarship to a college is damn near impossible. Yet, the easier way for a black person. Brandon Tatum is so smart.
you have to understand, and what needs to be preached, is that there's life outside of just this glam of athletics and entertainment. We need to start finding other people to look up to than just LeBron. Like the young lady, and then I don't think she was black enough, but she didn't know who Ben Carson was. But if I asked her who Beyonce was, she'll tell me. And Ben Carson is far greater of an impact in American history than Beyonce could ever have. She makes music. Ben Carson is one of the most brilliant men to ever live out of any race of anybody. So I think that they've been playing us with the emotionalism and weapon.
Let me guess. Ben Carson is like Officer Tatum and thinks black people just make bad decisions and nothing's unfair or racist. Did I hit the nail on the head?
In our pain. Because black people, I remember when I was in college and I took Africana Studies, my first class we learned about lynching. I was so mad when I was so mad at white people when I saw that I used to walk through campus and I would walk straight and I'd be like, let a white person bump into me. I had this anger and hatred that I had when I saw how they did these black people. So the question from that point is that, do you go with hatred or do you understand what has happened and you want to be better? And you understand that me and you and none of these people have nothing to do with slavery. We have nothing to do with it. That stuff was a long time ago. To me, slavery doesn't affect us today.
Why is he bringing up slavery? I wish in school they wouldn't teach that much about slavery and more of what happened after slavery. Why do people, when they want to say blacks are making excuses or being victimhood, why do they skip over everything and go right to slavery? As if right when we got out of slavery, everything was peaches and cream. It wasn't. The Jim Crow era was terrible. And it didn't end till like 1964 or 1965. That wasn't that long ago. And that's the era that really impacted us as a community. Even with Jim Crow, we managed to grow good communities, rich communities. But you know what happened? They got burnt down in the 1920s. These are things that they don't teach us in public education, and there's a reason for that. That's why I'm tired of people acting like just because they went to school, now they have knowledge. It's not true. The fact that you think that probably means you're not that smart. The average person can just spout out
Martin Luther King, Rosa Parks.
But there's so much more to all the black stories and what was going on during that time period, all the way into the mid-60s. Black people had to pay to vote in 1964. White people didn't. The more you know.
Only in understanding how it happened and not repeating it, but it don't affect us today. There's nothing stopping me from being on the university full of white people. How am I any different than a white person? Let me tell you this. I want to say this. When people...
One quick point. Yes, it does affect us. Not because white people are necessarily walking around being racist, although racism is clearly still here, but because of the residue left from all the slavery and all the oppression until 1960s and kinda till today. The residue. So yes, it does affect us.
Say that black people had a disadvantage in America and they explore this idea or they exacerbate this idea of white privilege. They're essentially saying black people aren't better or aren't the same as white people. They're saying that black people are less than white people. Because right now, every black person on this campus should understand that there's nothing that a white person can do that you can't do. And if you don't feel that way, you've been tricked.
A black person cannot walk around this country with a free mind knowing their race will never, ever be used against them because it never, ever has ever. That is what white privilege is. It doesn't mean you're born rich. I've heard comments say, I'm still waiting for my white privilege check in the mail. So you think white privilege means you're getting checks in the mail? Huh? The fact that you can even let your mind go there shows that you have white privilege because you don't quite understand what it is. Again, it doesn't mean that you're born rich. It doesn't mean everybody gave you everything. That's not what it is. It simply means this country was built for you. Everything in it was built for you. Even if you think about professionalism, when someone says you don't look professional, guess who set that standard? White people. Even the simplest things you'll never think about because you don't have to. And even black people don't think about because we're not thinking deep enough.
I went to a university in New Jersey. Look at this woman still talking. Can you be respectful? Why don't you come to the mic? You're disrespecting another sister. All you're doing is disrespecting everybody that's coming to the mic. Let me move on. Let me move on. Because you're drawing attention to you. You're in my ear. You're in my ear.
Look, I'm getting the attention I want, right?
Really? This is the attention you want?
Not really, but that's the thing. So
I don't think nothing. I just want you to stop or come to the mic. It's just simple, man. See, this is the difference. You can't have a mentality like this. This is how people fail in life to a certain degree. You got to have decorum, even if you disagree with somebody. You got to have a level of decorum. But anyway, let me move on to the next question. You have a next question?
That's basically it. But
Okay.
yeah, with especially, I think that people take it because every single ethnicity in America has had a history of coming into the United States. You know, like the Italians came and they were discriminated against. Irish people came, they were discriminated against. I think that black people's integration into society was more recent in years as far as segregation goes. I know we were slaves and stuff like that, but when they were supposed to be accepted as people, it was entirely different as opposed to that. But it's just crazy.
No, I think I agree. You made a really good point, and I think that everybody should understand this. She had made mention that the integration of black people is much different, right? If you look at the Hispanic people that have come into this country, the integration is different. They come through immigration or they illegally come into this country, whichever way they do it. They didn't have to go through slavery, Jim Crow, and all the other stuff. So that's a valiant point that black people did have a...
You notice how he does that nervous laugh when he says Jim Crow?
They didn't have to go through slavery, Jim Crow, Jim Crow.
Because he's uncomfortable talking about that stuff. That's why. He hasn't giggled like that the whole time until he said Jim Crow.
Jim Crow and all the other stuff. So that's a valiant point that black people did have a challenging position to be integrated into America is much difficult. But I think through the adversity and difficulty, black people have become much better than they would have if it was no adversity. And if you take advantage of it, you will be great. And there's nobody has done anything great without adversity. Nobody. And I feel like black people that are successful have taken adversity and they've maximized. They've taken that idea of saying, well, you can't come into this restaurant, to saying, you know what, I'm gonna open my own restaurant and I'm gonna change this thing. My dad, that's why having a father is important. My dad, I remember he was on a fire department, started when he was 19. My dad is almost, let's see what my dad, almost 60. Started when he was 19. He said there was discrimination on the fire department when he first started. Like some white guys and then black guys, they didn't really get along. What did my dad do? Did he tuck his tail between his legs? Did he go cry and want to get Al Sharpton to get involved? My dad said, you know what? They better watch how they treat me because one day they'll be working for me. My dad became the chief, Fort Worth, Texas. He was a battalion chief in Fort Worth, Texas, retired, chief of Waco, retired, chief of Keller, Texas. And he's gonna retire from there. You don't need to allow adversity to make you crumble like a coward. You take adversity and you maximize and you become great because of it. I came from Fort Worth, Texas, Dunbar High School.
How the hell is Brandon Tatum's dad co-workers having beef with each other adversity for him? How is that adversity? You guys can have beef with each other all you want. That's not my adversity. And just to make sure I'm understanding Brandon Tatum perfectly, he believes that because of slavery and Jim Crow and all the oppression that black people went through, that it made us better people, that we are now better people because of all the oppression. And I'm assuming it's true because Mr. Brandon Tatum said it and he's an absolute genius. But with that being true, what is he saying? Is he saying that without slavery and Jim Crow and all the oppression, that we would be even worse off than this? That we would fail even more? We would get an F- now? We are now -1? Well, thank God for slavery and Jim Crow and all the oppression. Now we're better than ever. Now we're a better version of ourselves. I can't believe this is the guy that people listen to. This is the guy that people think is so smart. This is the guy that people think can beat me in a debate. I'm starting to get very offended by that now.
Stop six in the hood. I didn't let that dictate who I would become. I said, you know what? I see people selling drugs. I'm gonna give you an example. We used to have this car wash, and you get your car washed for like $5. Them crackheads, I don't know how they end up putting coins in there or whatever. They'll wash your car $5. One day I went to the car wash, get my car wash, and I saw a brother smoking crack behind that car wash, and it hurt me. I said, why am I giving money to see my brother smoke crack on the back of this thing just to get my car washed? That changed how I saw my own community. And I said, I want to make a difference. I'm gonna become a police officer because I want to make a difference in policing. I want to go to university and get an education because most people in my family have never been to a university. I took adversity and I said, let me take this adversity and use it as fuel to make me become the greatest man that I can be. And if everybody does that and are consistent, they will maximize what God has for them. Not everybody gonna be rich. Not everybody gonna be Elon Musk. That's not your goal. Your goal is to play the cards that God has put in your hand. And that goal may be being a good mom. That goal may be being a straight A student, graduating cum laude, summa cum laude. That may be just being a good person to other people and changing people's lives. Like, we have to understand that. It's not a failure if you're not rich and you don't get to this pinnacle of what people lie to you about as the American dream. It's about maximizing who you are and getting to the peak of what you can become. Anyway, I get on my soapbox. Is that the last question?
Now at first listen, I'm sure people are like, damn, what a speech. That Brandon Tatum, he's such a smart man. He's such a strong man. He overcomes, he overachieves. We should make him president. But if you listen to what he's saying, he's just talking and colorizing a bunch of nonsense that has nothing to do with the deeper picture, with the bigger picture. First off, Brandon Tatum is obviously leaving out details in his life. He might have grew up in the hood, but he didn't have it as bad as everybody else. Obviously, he had a car. Obviously, he's paying people $5 to wash his car, right? So obviously, he has some type of guidance and had access to positive things. But also, he already said he went to college, right? How did he get there? A full sports scholarship. Do you think anyone can just go, you know what? I'm gonna change my life. I'm gonna go play football and go get a full ride to my university of choice. Of course not. He's being dumb. He is a small percentage. He is an outlier. For some reason, he likes to use outliers as what should be and what is easy to do. I'm not sure why, but that's what he does. But anyways, I'm running out of time. I need to get my daughter to school. So if you have anything to add to this video, then comment below. Tell me what you think. Do you think Brandon Tatum's on to something? Or do you think he's just full of it and loves the view and subs he gets for saying this nonsense? But also, if you enjoyed my video, if you found it entertaining, informative, annoying, low quality, or anything at all, I'm very desperate. Then you know I'm gonna need you to hit that bell like the hunchback. Also click that hit checker button and sub ride with me. And I'll see you on the next trip.
Day and night. Keep it real. Keep it real. Keep it real. All my life. Keep it real. Keep it real. Keep it real. Can't help I keep it real. Keep it real. Keep it real. That's why I keep it real. Keep it real. Keep it real.